Good evening, everybody. My name is D.Moss. This is One on One with D.Moss, and we're going to have a great conversation tonight. As usual, we talk about issues, subject matter relevant to the Black community. Our job is to uplift, create awareness, share information, and give people something that they can talk about. Good stuff. So today I have two guests on with me. I have Andrew Keaton, member of the crew, Indie Soul Festival, Brotherhood on the Move, Pamusa Museum. Then I have Denise Jordan with me. She's the executive director of the Springfield Housing Authority, former the first Black chief of staff for the great city of Springfield. She's a Delta, um, co-founded Ebon Phoenix 105 years ago. If I start naming all the organizations that we've been a part of, woo. Anyways, I have individuals on with me today who have been deeply involved in some capacities in our community for years and probably years to come. So with that being said, I'll let you guys do a quick intro for yourself. We'll get right into the conversation. First up, we'll go ladies first. We'll say Denise Jordan.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Keaton. Thank you for having me on the show. Both of you know, especially Daryl, he forgot to give my favorite title is his partner in crime. I do shows and I'm not on Facebook or social media, but every now and again I come out of hiding because it gets to just be a lot. And I feel like sometimes you need a voice of reason. And sometimes I believe that there are still people out in our community that like to hear the truth and they like facts and not opinions, but facts. And so I'm a fact checker. And so that's why I'm here tonight.
Well, all right. And then we have Andrew Keaton.
All right, welcome. Thank you, Daryl, and welcome to Denise. I appreciate this opportunity and dialogue. I've been knowing both of you for the longest, probably Denise a lot longer. Way back, I always had respect for both of you, what you've done in the city, and especially with Denise, just a lot of things you've done as far as leadership with the first of a lot of things in this city. So that right there deserves accolades due. So whatever I can add to the conversation about leadership, it is never been really political leadership, but it's been leadership in other capacities too. So whatever I can add to the conversation and put my definition onto it, I'm here to share that.
All right. So with that being said, let's get into it. Let's talk about before we get into some of the clarifying issues that challenges that I know you want to address, Denise. Let's talk about leadership. From your perspective, what exactly is leadership? Because you have a lot of people who call themselves leaders. We have Facebook warriors, we have radio jockeys, we have electeds who sit in chairs, but the chairs still remain empty. There's so many different types of self-proclaimed leaders. As my man Michael Bonds from Roxbury, Mass. always says, on the other side of the leadership thing, we have, well, he doesn't call them activists, he calls them act as ifs. So we have a lot of them. So today,
I like that. You know what?
So today,
can folks watch this on Facebook live?
Absolutely. Yeah. They can watch it on. Yeah, it's this is public. They can go to facebook.com/on deck TV. It's a public page, or they can go to my page, Daryl Moss. It's also a public page. I mean, I keep everything public.
I told them to go to your page.
Okay.
All right. So, Daryl, I think you have a poster of me, and I talk about what a leader is, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that I say is that, you don't need a title to lead, right? When you look at the history of leadership in the Black community, you had a person with a vision that shared it with another person who liked the vision, who then went to another person who bought into the vision. And then you had a team of people that said, you know what, I like your idea. I like what you represent. I like your plan. We're going to follow you and we're going to make it happen. And so when you talk about leadership, it's really just having the ability to have people follow you. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But I think Keith alluded to it the correct way. You don't need a title to be a leader. You can be a leader on the playground. You can be a leader on the football field, on the basketball field. You can be a leader at your job. You can be a leader in school. So there are so many places where you can be a leader. And then, there are people that are born leaders. And then there are folks that teach themselves to be good leaders. And then there are those that just call themselves leaders because they can.
Got you. Agreed. Drew, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I agree as well. And like I said, whether it's sports, whether it's, just create a program, or you don't like the circumstances you are in, and you feel that you need to jump ahead and create something, that could be labeled as a leader as well.
Mhm.
And I think leadership is well, I think the definition is so broad though, but I think the definition of leadership, I think a lot of times people would turn to leadership and they expect them to do the impossible as well. And sometimes you got to really look at yourself as a leader, or what is asked of a leader. Would you do the same thing that you're asking that person as a leader though? So not to be broad, I'm just saying it could be defined as so many things though. But let me just speak for myself as a leader. I like to take charge of things. I like to lead. I like to set by example. But I also like to include people in the things and the decision processes that I'm making. And you know all that, Daryl, too. I mean, perfect example is the Springfield Indie Soul Festival, when you talk about leadership and creating something for the city of Springfield. So that's just a few examples. But I just think, like I said, a lot of people expect a lot of things out of leaders. And, a leader, I wouldn't encompass a leader as a leader of all people either. It depends on what you're leading. So, a lot of times leaders take hits for things they have nothing to do with. So I just wanted to add that.
No, and I appreciate that, Keaton, because to me, a perfect example, there's a lot of people who have become leaders, they're self-proclaimed leaders. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they're idiots, but people follow them. I mean, someone just was elected out of office. He's still considered a leader, but look at the people that are following him. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they stand for. So that's when I said leaders can be good or bad. And when Daryl talked about you can have an official, an appointed, or an elected leader sitting in an empty seat, there's numerous examples of people that are called leaders by titles that aren't leading anything. They're not doing anything. And 9 times out of 10, they are absent and unaccounted for in our community. Yet, no one holds them accountable. And Daryl and I used to talk about all the time, because, folks would come to us like we were the ones elected to do the work. Some of those folks that were elected to do the work, they used to give our numbers and send people to us to help them when they were
all the time.
Work.
All the time.
And so when Daryl and I would, talk about it and try to defend ourselves, people would want to come for me and Daryl when they didn't understand. Our job and our roles at the mayor's office were clear. All the stuff that we did out in the community, it was because we wanted to.
Right.
Because we were doing that shit way before Mayor Sarno.
Right.
Matter of fact, it was because of Daryl's community work and activism. And it was because of my work and activism. When I say work, I'm not talking about punching in a clock. I'm talking about boots on the ground, getting your hands dirty, boots working, right? He came and got us. We didn't come for him. Yeah. He asked us to work for him.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, Denise.
Nobody don't want to understand it.
People don't want to understand. Okay. And it's interesting because well, I'm gonna say a leader to me, I'm just gonna throw this out. A leader is someone who can see how things can be improved, who rallies people to move towards that better vision. Leaders can work towards making their vision a reality while putting people first. You can't be a leader if you don't have vision. Just because you can articulate a few thoughts, you can put some 5-syllable words together, you might go to school and even get a couple of degrees. That doesn't make you a leader.
Nope.
If I'm on the battlefield, and I use this example all the time, I want that rugged, old school sergeant who's been on the war, who's been on the battlegrounds 1,000 times and helped me navigate through the process so I can get to where I'm going. We have a lot of people who call themselves leaders because of their jobs, high profile, employment positions. That doesn't make you a leader. You lead your company, but you're not a leader in the community. So sometimes we spend more time talking about what a leader isn't than what a leader is. So I want to focus on what a leader is. What separates people from the pack? Aside from you got a vision, but what separates people from the pack?
An outcome, an action plan. How about a body of work?
Right.
When you say body of work, I don't think people understand that. What exactly is a body of work?
That means you put together a plan, you execute it, and you can check that it's done. That means if you're rallying up folks for a cause and you have an outcome, you get it done. You want an example?
Go for it.
All right, so let's talk about some years back. There was an issue about getting a young lady on the historical commission, right? For no real reason, folks decided they didn't want her to be on that commission. And we all know that in order to sit on a board or a commission, or how about this? Because the bar is so low, to be an elected official, all you have to do is be 18 and register to vote.
Absolutely.
And get people to vote for you. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. All you need is residency, the correct age.
Yeah.
And then you need to be registered to vote and then get folks to vote for you. So it's amazing to me how once people get elected, they act like you have to have all this whole pedigree and all these credentials when you don't have to have any. Because truth be told, if you look at the body of work that most electeds have currently, before they became elected, zero.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
So back to what I was saying. So then folks were like, wow, they're trying to block this young lady for no valid reason except they have some personal axe to grind, or they're just trying to flex because they can. So what happened? The community got mobilized. Keaton was there. Daryl, you were there. The City Hall chamber, I don't think it's ever been that packed since. The community rallied. Their voices were heard. And the young lady was elected. All the folks that were not going to vote for her, except one, they all flipped. It was successful. That's mobilization of a plan. The person got on. That was mission accomplished. Check. And I never forget that, because a certain city councilor then came back to me and said, well, that's not right. You guys got all those people in the chamber for this. But when we were talking about if we wanted the sign for MGM to be glass or wood, something like that, where were you? And I'm like, first of all, I don't care what the sign looks like. And second of all, it's not our job to pack the city council chamber. That's your job. You were elected to pack this chamber, not me, not Daryl. But we did. And everybody knows after that, people in City Hall were like, damn. We didn't know that. We never had to do that, but we always knew we could. And you only got to do it once.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's what leadership is, having the ability to mobilize people, come out behind you because they believe in what you're doing. And the biggest thing is, which is a lost art in the city, is credibility, accountability, and respect. And so when you're talking about leaders, self-proclaimed leaders, my favorite is social media leaders, because now you don't even have to leave your house to make yourself look leader-like. You just create a profile. You're putting down any and everything you want to put about yourself. You're taking pictures at places you really weren't at, or you might have stopped by for 5 seconds. And you're having events that aren't for you, but are for other things. But you're posting like it's you and they're all there for you. That's not true.
Right.
So it's very easy to look leader-like.
Yeah.
And because of social media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or you write some angry posts, or you go after some elected official who has no idea you exist, and now all of a sudden you're a leader. 100%. Anything you want to add to that, Drew?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you both. I say, so take me for instance, and then I'll get back into back a lot of what did he said. So I wouldn't consider myself a leader, even though I created a nonprofit organization. I'm just with a collective body in the city of Springfield. When we called on, we'll answer the call. Okay. Now, far as politically, some people think you have to be, like we talked about it earlier, alluded, you have to be in politics to be a leader. But I just want to say this. I think somebody as a leader, you have to be visibility. And the transparency piece has to be constant and has to be there. For instance, let's talk about elected officials and people can get pissed off they want to hear this or not. But when you talk about elected officials, a lot of times, like what Denise alluded to, they talked about MGM, but when you pack the house for somebody being elected or one of the committees, it was packed and it wasn't packed. And a lot of times that goes along with issues too. A lot of times you don't even see a lot of these elected officials around the community. They don't do a lot of the community work. And it's true. They don't. They're not at events. They don't support things that might be happening at the Boys and Girls Clubs and the reading programs. Like I can ask you this, Daryl, how many elected officials came in there and read? A handful of them. How many came in there and read to the kids?
Over the last 6 years, too.
Two. And you have, 13, 14 on the committee. So it's all about transparency, and it's all about, it's this good old boy network. It's this I like game, I like you. I think there's a lot of issues going on in the city where people just don't like each other. And people will have issues with each other just because who, like your father is, who your mother is, and what the past this person did, or this person got excluded out of that, and all of that. And that's some of the nonsense that has to stop. It really is. So, I just think, there's just a lot of nonsense going on in the city. People don't like each other.
But with good
okay, go ahead, Jen.
No, it's with good reason.
Right.
Because, for me, there's like probably maybe almost 1.5 of my hands, I can count people that I don't like. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why I don't like them is because I don't respect them. Mm-hmm. I don't respect them. I peep their game. I know they're full of shit. They don't like me because they know I know. Okay. And at the end of the day, when you lie to our community, when you lie on members of our community, when you haven't really done it, why would I like you? Because it goes beyond how you feel about me when you're sucking in our community. We get enough misrepresentation and we get enough folks outside of our community lying to us that how dare you as a Black person come into our community and become a divisive figure, become a liar, become someone who goes after someone's reputation because they're more respected than you are. And while you're wasting all your time hating on that individual, how is that helping our community? Right. So I think what bothers me the most, and I told Daryl that I was quitting the community because I'm just tired of people just lie. And then the biggest thing I can't stand is that fact that people do not do their homework. And people will get on a radio show, they'll get on Facebook. And that's one thing about Facebook. Anybody can get a Facebook page and go live and just talk a bunch of nonsense. And you're always going to have an audience. Why? Because people like negative shit. People, it's amazing to me how many people will believe a lie. And then when you come with the facts and have receipts, they still don't want to believe. So why would you not want to believe something good about anybody? You know? And so I just think about the whole respect thing in terms of how people will represent their opinions as facts. And then when you have a title, when you're an elected official, if you're a member of a faith-based organization, a member of the clergy, and you're a presidency or neighborhood council representative, then people are looking to you for leadership. And when you know that and twist things and lie and withhold facts for your own agenda, then you are deceiving the community on purpose. And I got a problem with that, but it amazes me that most people don't. Even when you catch these folks in a lie, even when you only see these people 3-4 months before election, and then they go back with their heads in the sand, until there's a topic to be pimped, and then they're out there, then they disappear again, and everybody talks about them. But when it comes election time, pull that lever.
Yeah, and I just want to say something to comment on what Denise said. You first of all, you can't quit the city. You can't do that.
Too late.
Because, and I think the issue really is facts, and I don't know all the facts either. I mean, there's been many times Denise don't pull me over and say,
I knew you were gonna say that.
No, I'm gonna say, well, because Denise, I know from far as I know Denise got respect for me, and I respect it. I've been knowing Denise for a long time.
Yep.
But Denise will pull you over and respectfully, not scolding, respectfully, like, well, no, Keaton, it happened this way. It happened that way. And there's been many a times that, like, me and Brother Johnny has backed Denise, for instance, with the Dunbar, when me and Johnny got hung out with the Dunbar issue. And we were telling them what, before, what Denise and them was doing about buying the bricks and all of that, when people said that didn't happen and she didn't do this and all of that. So we got hung out a lot of times on conversations. But I want to say that it's always good to have somebody pull you over and say, no, let me tell you the facts on this and that. That's very important. Most people don't do that. Most leaderships won't do that. They'll hide behind certain things, or hide behind, and I need to know certain things because I don't know everything. Man, half of my career was spent up in Boston. It wasn't spent in this area. So I need to know. I need to know. I think we need to know for clarity, because there are some people who do know facts, but will hide behind what's being said and don't want clarity, like you said, because of agendas. Right. We just need to know. So
Daryl, talk about how when there would be meetings in the community on certain topics, and Daryl and I would crack up because folks wouldn't invite us on purpose.
Oh, a lot. Very often.
Because they knew we knew the truth.
Yeah.
And then it was hurtful, to be honest with you, Keaton. And Daryl and I, we spent a lot of time together before City Hall, during and after, kind of commiserating sometime. And we were like sad because of it was never been our intent to hurt our community ever.
Right.
We never, ever, ever went after people, even when we should. And yet we always got a bad rap because certain individuals just made it their business to come for Daryl and I. And we were like, for what? Because we were working our butts off. Then some of those same people would be dogging us in the street. They wouldn't think we knew about it. And they would call us and ask us to help them with this and that. And me and Daryl would laugh amongst ourselves, but we would do it because whatever it was benefiting the community. And so when you're a leader, you have to go above sometimes being petty. And so that's difficult for me to say, because you could call it petty. But for me, if I know that you are trying to do me harm because you're sabotaging my reputation, trying to get people to not like me, just lying about things that you claim I've done to you, and I tried to block you and I did all this and that. And I'm like, that is so not true. Because to be honest with you and not being arrogant, I had the power to take you down. I had the power to knock a lot of people down, and Daryl as well. And we never did it, even when they came for us. Why? Because when you have integrity, and to me, when you have empathy and sympathy, because there's something wrong with the person. It's not you, And I don't want to be the one that, got that person fired from their job, or took this away from this person. They don't have the ability to feed their family. I couldn't sleep at night if I did that to somebody. But Daryl and I used to laugh because we were like, if other people were in our shoes, they would have done it to us. But then I say, and that's why they weren't there.
Well, that goes back to your leadership. It just takes special people and a special understanding of what a true leader is. Then, if it's on, what you just said, which.
But it also speaks to the issue of accountability. It's about accountability, and that's when I have to look to. Not I can't even look at the people who put on that leadership facade. I think I don't know how old I am right now, but I've been active in my community, and I don't care where I lay my hat. Wherever I lay my hat, if there's Black people, I'm going to get involved. I've always seen myself as a worker more so than a leader. Things got to get done. Denise, how many times have we walked in, somebody's sound system be messed up? We sit there for 5 minutes, then we go into action mode. Okay, we need to figure out how to do this. Let's get this thing working right and almost take over somebody's meeting, not because we're trying to show anybody out. It's like to make sure that things get done right if it's going to positively impact our community. So there's two things. There's active involvement, which means even if something ain't yours and your name ain't on the roster, the list to speak, or anything else,
say that again, Daryl. Say that again.
Even if your name ain't on the roster, the list, whatever the case may be, you go there and you help out and you contribute because it's about community, or it should be. The other piece is going to be active involvement. Then you have the accountability from the community. A lot of people feign as if they don't see what's going on, but they do. And we don't hold people accountable. The people we hold accountable are the people that we see working the hardest. If you bust your butt and you're constantly doing and doing and doing and doing, then the expectations for the worker goes through the roof.
Yeah.
But the figurehead just gets on the radio from time to time, issues a press release, a press advisory. They always get passes. So when we look at our community and we wonder why our community is stagnant, we'd rather point to someone from the past instead of the leadership that we have now and hold them accountable. People don't speak. I know there's been times when I know we had to go on 90.7 on certain shows and check certain people because. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heard about y'all famous.
Was it twice? A couple times. There's times when you hear somebody just lying so profusely, and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going up to the radio station, and we're going to walk in. We're going to have that conversation because people, it's like you want to hold the wrong people accountable. When you know that you ride or die with someone who doesn't get things done, and that person's getting a pass throughout our community, I mean, you want to establish yourself as a legacy name, a part of a legacy family, then you have to do that legendary work. You have to be out there at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, up just thinking of ways of getting things done. There's been nights when I know I couldn't sleep. I'm up trying to 6:30 in the morning. I'm getting a call from Denise, so I'm calling Denise saying, "What do you think about ... and ... Will this work?" So if you're not,
what is that?
What is what?
What is a legacy? What is a legacy family? What is that? What is that?
You guys want to take a stab at it?
A family. Well, I'm not going to take a stab because my answer is short. Maybe legacy is entitlement, or I don't know. What is it?
I like that word because for a lot of people it is. Because at the end of the day, you might be like-minded, but it was like my father didn't have me to create a legacy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? My father didn't sit me and my sister down and tell us what he wanted us to do with our lives. It was like whatever we wanted to do, we were supported. I'm a strong believer in DNA, right? I always say, Daryl, DNA is real. You can find folks that, may be separated from a parent and then they meet a parent or they meet someone that knows their parent and they're like, wow, your mom does that. Your dad does that. And they don't even know that person because your DNA kind of dictates a little bit of what shapes you and what you want to be. And so for me, the notion of leadership, I don't subscribe to it. Leadership is a word that you either give yourself or other people give you. Okay. I take the hit. Folks want to call me a leader. I didn't build my life to become one. You lead by example. People give you the title. It's not a title that I would necessarily want to have or subscribe to have. And then one thing I will say, and again, Daryl and I talk about it all the time, people fight people discredit people lie on people, all to become a leader. And so there's a cost to being a leader, especially if you're going to be a good one. And so one of the things that I could never understand is that how come people don't like me because I tell the truth. I want facts. If you're wrong, I'm going to say you're wrong. If you're lying, I'm tell you you're lying. It's just straight no chaser. And so that's what puzzles me, is that people really don't want the truth. And then, how, like, I watch reality TV show and they always say, don't come for me unless I send for you. So what always happens is you come for me. I'm like, you chose to come for me or come at me. And then when I smack you up with the truth and I check you, now I'm the bad guy. And so Daryl, that's what happened to us. We were getting dragged in the community, right? And this happened on a number of occasions. And the funny part was by people we didn't even know. They were on the radio talking about Denise and Daryl. We don't listen. People are calling us saying, yo, this person's on the radio talking about you. We're like, who are they? Like, they could sit next to me on the bus. I wouldn't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And then, one of them came to City Hall, right, Daryl, years later, apologizing and saying, I don't even know why I was attacking you, because I didn't even know y'all. But as I've been around, you all did good work, and I'm sorry. Well, I can respect that. Then another person was introduced to me, put their hand out, and you know me, I'm Keaton, you know how I am. Daryl, I just looked at their hand, and I just looked at them, and I walked away. Why? You on the radio dogging me. You don't know me. You don't think I heard, because you probably know I don't listen. And then you want to be fake and phony in my face and speak to me. I don't speak to nobody that I don't respect or I don't like, period. You can call it ignorant, immature, petty. Call it Denise Jordan, because that's what it is.
And I mean, and that happens often. And it's like, for all the people who are like claiming that they're leadership, that's how you can tell they're not, because they have no idea all the obstacles, the challenges, the bullshit that you have to go through when the minute you volunteer to step to the plate, pick up that bat and take a swing, there's a spotlight on you, a huge ass spotlight. When everybody else is acting silly and being stupid, let me tell you right now, you got to conduct yourself like a diplomat, because you have half of a community looking at you, expecting you to walk on water half the time. So when people say, I'm leadership and I've been a leader for a while, well, that's good. I never really tried that. I don't want that role. And I feel for people who do. Sometimes, like Denise said, you walk into it because you're good at something. But again, it really boils down to the community, because it shouldn't be the same people doing it over and over again. I think the community has to learn to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
We do not hold anyone accountable for the right reasons. Just because you're in the barbershop, the beauty salon, somebody's living room, and you can, you start dogging people because you're riding the wave or the energy in that particular room, that doesn't make your points valid, and that doesn't make the critique valid. So I'm like, if we ran a school, if you opened up a school and you had a classroom for potential leaders, young people in the community, and you want to teach them about being a leader, I'd probably discourage my own kids from walking in them shoes.
Wait, Daryl, don't you want to establish a legacy?
Listen, my son won't even recite a poem. He won't even recite a poem, and I never encourage him to. It's just like, wow, you walk, but you got people who feel like they're entitled. I don't know how many times I've heard, well, I'm from such and such a family, and my family is that. It's like, but that's fine. That's beautiful. But now tell me what you're doing.
Yeah.
The situation, we're looking for resolution. You tell me how to get from here to there. If you want to go back and talk to your family about that, then let's do that. But I think accountability, in our community, we have to do a better job of holding people accountable. People have to step up and be more visible. You can't have the same voices and personalities stepping up and checking people, because then if you rely on 2 or 3, maybe 4 people tops to hold people accountable, those people get demonized. So when we talk about leadership, we talk about where our community is going. We can't even talk equity. We can't even talk equity until we can talk accountability and talk to the people who are in positions to help us make those decisions. Does that make sense, or do I sound crazy? I'm listening.
No, that makes sense.
It makes sense. But then here's the thing. Who wants sense, Daryl? Who wants common sense? Who wants accountability? I mean, those are questions. When you look at the state of our community, you have to ask the question, is that what people really want? Because they sure don't act like it. Because when you look around the Black community and see what we had and look at what we have never had more Black people in elected positions and in leadership than we have right now. Or no, than we've had for like maybe the last 10 or so years.
Absolutely.
But yet we had more 25 years ago. So with all of the, ward representation was made to get more people of color on that council. Well, it happened. So what did we gain from it as a community? And so when you spoke about in terms of going back and forth, and one of the things that we were going to talk about tonight, and the real reason that I wanted to talk, Daryl, because again, I don't talk often, but one of my friends called me up and said that somebody was on Facebook talking about that Ray Jordan and Richie Neal killed Mason Square because they backed the opening of the mall, right? So I was laughing because I think anybody that just thought about it, I shouldn't even be on the show talking about it, but because it's just so comical, I said I can't resist, to be honest with you, because sometimes I'm greasy like that, right? So we talk about facts. And I kind of like that whole thing was said incorrectly, but I'm glad it was said, because then it just gave me an opportunity to shoot my shot, and I'm only going to do it once, right? And even still, they're going to say, oh, that's not true. She's just saying that because that's her father. You're damn right. I'm saying it's because my father, but I'm saying it because it's the truth, right? So let me tell you about Raymond Andrew Jordan Jr., okay? So what this person said was that my father and Mayor Neal sat down and wrote up this plan to support the opening of Eastville Mall. Now, there is a little bit of truth to that about malls killing downtowns and neighborhood businesses. But if you do your homework and you look at history, malls shut down half of the urban downtowns and neighborhood businesses all across the United States of America. Okay. Why? Because people wanted malls. Because the malls were one-stop shopping centers. Everybody loved the malls. When you're a teenager, you want to go to the mall, right? I grew up when we had downtown. But slowly but surely, the malls expanded. Newer stores came in, and then they began to occupy the mall. And then, your stores can't compete. Just like we used to have a bookstore downtown, right? Thank God we still have Olive Tree, right? But even places like Barnes and Nobles, those folks are in danger right now because Amazon is killing them, right? Absolutely. So it's a fact that the online market, I mean, whoever thought that, Keaton, Daryl, and Denise would live in a day when Sears would close?
Right.
J.C. Penney, Kmart is gone, right? That's what the internet has done to big box stores, right? So going back to the mall. So Ray Jordan closed the mall down. I mean, he ruined the businesses, the Black businesses in Winchester Square, which is now called Mason Square. Okay. So him and Richie Neal supporting Eastville Mall. Well, number one, and thank you for saying so, Daryl, Eastville Mall was opened in 1968. Opened in 1968, right? But Ray Jordan and Richie Neal supported the mall opening, even though neither one of them were in office. Ray Jordan was elected in 1975. And how about this? Now, remember, they shut the mall down. Ray was elected in 75. Neal didn't become mayor till 1983. And me and Keaton know about 1983, right? We were still in high school, okay? So that I don't even have to go any further because that fact is just blown out the water because it's ridiculous and not true, okay? No one person shut down a downtown. People wanted malls. And so you got a mall, you gave up your downtown. Nobody knew that was going to happen, right? And then what did they do by malls? Most of them, they put a grocery store there. So now people could do all their shopping at once. It kind of made sense, but no one knew it was going to hurt the other businesses. Mom and pop shops all over America are now starting to come back, but they all died out because they got killed by the big stores. Is that true?
That's accurate.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's
so
true.
to blame one person or two people for all that is just short of being ridiculous. Okay. So then what I really want to talk about, then I swear I'm going to stop talking, Keaton and Daryl, but I want to make the point. I am so sick of people talking about Ray Jordan. Every time something goes wrong in the Black community, they're calling on Ray Jordan. Why? Ray Jordan left office in 1995, 26 years ago. All right. And yet there have been 2 state representatives after he left. And to date, people are still calling Ray Jordan to fix messes in our city when you got state representatives that were in the seat at the time. Okay. But yeah, you still want to call on Ray Jordan like he's the bad guy that tore up the city. When people want to run for office, he ain't asking you to come to his house. But people come to his house because they want vision. They want some tips. They want some leadership skills. They want some insight. They want to know how to do it. Any and everybody worth anything can come and talk to Ray Jordan. He's not going to say you can't come to his house. And how do I know that? I have told him to not let certain people come to our house, and he does it anyway because he don't listen to me because he has wisdom. He said it was given to him. He gives it back, right? And he can support as many people as he wants to. He might tell 7 people all the information they want, and they're all running against each other. At the end of the day, it's may the best man or woman win, right? But at the end of the day, I'm going to just throw out a couple of nuggets. Do your homework and check me. I really wish you would check me because it's all facts, right? Ray Jordan was elected from 75 to 95, right? Under Ray Jordan's leadership, what did we get in Mason Square? Midtown Plaza, Indian Motorcycle Apartments, the Martin Luther King Center, Family Center, the 5-Town Plaza where C-Town is, got redone and all that other stuff. We had the Alexander B. Mapp Center, what used to be the Urban League. The Rebecca Johnson School was built. The Early Hood Child Center on Bay and Catherine, the old Early Hood Child Center. That D. Edward Wells building that used to be on State Street. Hennessy Park was updated and renamed for a former civil rights leader, James Hennessy. And then we call it Welfare Park, but Hennessy Park. And then that was updated with basketball courts and full of that. I believe we also got Blunt Park Pool. And I remember being young and the then state representative Raymond Jordan used to bring folks in from Boston to talk about programs for first-time home buyers, how to start small businesses. And he would advertise and send things out. And folks in our community wouldn't even show up. And he would call me and ask me to call some of my friends and see if they would just show up and sit in the audience so the room would look full, so he wouldn't be embarrassed bringing people here from out of the state and we couldn't get an audience. And I remember people would come to our house and like sort of say, oh, Ray, I want to do this business. And then sort of expect him to put it all together and then badmouth him because he's like, well, I can give you the tools and information, but I can't do it. I can remember people coming to our house asking for $10, $5, $20, like, you know. And my dad wasn't a millionaire. When he was a state representative, the salary was $32,000 a year. And then I think he got a chairmanship and you got an extra $9, right? So he wasn't no millionaire. I remember one of my friends like, my father and my mother both make more money than your father. And we were like, again, misconception. Just because you got a title don't mean you're rich.
Right.
Back then, state representatives used to be lawyers. Being a state representative was their side hustle. They had 2 incomes coming in. Ray Jordan just had that one, right? Ray Jordan stayed in office 20 years, way longer than he wanted to and way longer than he should have. He had opportunities where he could have got tapped to make more money, to get state or federal jobs. I remember it was his friends around him that said, you need to leave because all these other people, your colleagues are leaving, doing their terms, and they're making all this money. And you sitting here trying to work for your community. And my father used to always say, but I've done so much and I don't want to just leave it if someone's not going to be able to build on what I've done, because this was a lot of work.
Right.
Every single person that I know.
Didn't you miss out on two things though?
I'm not done.
5A football,
5A football.
Harambe.
I mean, all those leagues that we used to have back in the day, like Hill Jets, the Chiefs, whatever, always made donations, right? My father always would give coaches money because here's the other thing people don't realize. When an elected official has fundraisers, the purpose of those fundraisers is not just to raise money to buy stuff during an election. You're supposed to fundraise year round. Why? So you can support initiatives in your community, right? So my dad would pay for buses, right? Pat Sullivan talks about this all the time because he played baseball. I didn't know Pat Sullivan before the city. So if you played a sport in the city of Springfield and your team won like a national not a national, but a statewide championship, and a lot of the old players from Commerce, because Commerce used to win a lot, used to always talk about Ray Jordan would rent a bus or two, take the entire team and the cheerleaders, bring them to Boston. They get the State House tour. He would feed everybody. Back then it was McDonald's. You know, we McDonald's, you was good, right? And then, you know, bring you back home. He would do that out of his campaign funds. You know, donate to different organizations, you know, buy turkeys, you know, all kinds of stuff. That's what he did. Buying jerseys for basketball teams and things like that. That's what he used to do with campaign funds, because you're not supposed to spend it on yourself. You can only spend it on community events, make donations, and then for your campaign. That's what you're supposed to do with your campaign funds. And when you're out of office and you still have funds left, you have to dissolve it by donating it to community organizations, right? So the biggest thing that's really like my takeaway about Ray Jordan's legacy is that Ray Jordan worked his ass off. And even now in retirement, he's still answering the phone, and I block him because I'm like, Dad, it's not your problem no more. So I'll be damned when I hear some idiot on the radio or in some little raggedy paper talking about anything negative about Ray Jordan. You know, somebody was calling Ray Jordan the Uncle Tom. I'm like, you don't even know Black people, and you talking about Ray Jordan? You know how many people got jobs? When Keaton and I were in high school, I don't even know anybody that didn't have a summer job that wanted one because they would call Ray Jordan. I listen to Calvin Walls all the time at my dad's second retirement party. And he was like, Denise, I just wanted to go on stage and thank your father for all the jobs that he got for people in our community. People that worked on the turnpike, people that worked in state offices, city hall, you know, any place where he could make a phone call. I work at the housing authority. It's a different place now because everything is automated. So there's electronic footprints. How many people would call our house and say, my daughter needs somewhere to live. You know, I got evicted, and Ray Jordan could pick up the phone and call the housing authority and say, can you get an apartment for this person, that person? Oh, my electricity got shut off. Ray Jordan would call the electricity. Can you shut their electricity back on? And all that was on his word. And they trusted him and they would do it. And back then, if people borrowed money, they would pay it back. So when you talk about Ray Jordan, you better check your facts, because at the end of the day, he left in 95. From 1975 to 95, I talked about all the things that he did. But why don't you sit down and think about all the organizations and things that our community lost after he left? All right? Because we don't have early childhood anymore. We don't have NES anymore. We don't have Dunbar anymore. We don't have D. Edward Wells anymore. Well, you had him when Ray Jordan was there. And a lot of those organizations, Ray went to Boston and got the funding to build those parcels that I spoke about. So when they talk about bringing home the bacon, that's what Ray Jordan did. And it's funny how people that talk so much shit about Ray Jordan have amnesia, and they skip over 1995 to date. And they don't say anything about those people that held that seat after he left. And why is that? Yeah, you know why. I know why. Because you don't have nothing good to say. And even in retirement, and Keaton talked about Dunbar, they didn't call the state representative at the time. They didn't call the Black people on the city council. They called Ray Jordan. The board chair called Ray Jordan. Ray called Henry Thomas. They called Deval Patrick. They got the money. They called Kirk Smith at the Y and said, could you just be the fiscal conduit so we can keep this thing running until they figure it out. And as we sat there in that meeting, and Keaton was there, and I'm raising my hand in the back, and that pastor saw me, but he didn't want to call on me. So I raised my hand. I walked up to the front of the room because I sat back there listening to people lie. You had 2 board members sitting in the back of the room whose fault it was, because it was under their leadership, right? And they were going to sit there and let the people from the Y take the hit. And everybody from the community was mad at the Y. And I'm like, excuse me, the Dunbar is the one that lost their organization. The Y didn't have nothing to do with that. And nobody was holding the leadership of the Dunbar accountable. And you blamed it on the Y, you know? And I just thought that was crazy. And then there was this one girl, my favorite girl, Daryl, who has made her whole life's work is to talk about and try to disrespect and get people to not like Denise Jordan. And she's an idiot because she had such a bright future. But for some reason, she was always having a war with me that I didn't know I was fighting. And it was crazy because I'm like, I ain't never done nothing to that. I actually supported her in a lot of things, but for whatever reason, I became on her target. She's sitting there next to somebody talking about, that's not true. That's not true. And it took me, I was this close from saying, sweetheart, you wasn't even in the room. All you people sitting here, I was the only one in here. I was in the room. You couldn't get in the room. You couldn't even get in the building of the room. And you sitting here talking like you know facts. And so that's one of the biggest things in our community that bothers me is how we allow certain people to talk like they were in the room, like they're movers and shakers, and they would even have privy or access to certain information. And y'all know they don't. And then they sit there lying, knowing they weren't in the room. I'm like, there's some mental health, something's wrong with people that do that distort their own vision of who they are. And then you're going to come for me. So I'm like, check my receipts. That's all I'm going to say. You want to come for Ray Jordan? Check his receipts, because you're going to get your feelings hurt, because that's a body of work. Jordans have a body of work. And if you spent more time trying to establish your own body of work than coming for Denise and Ray Jordan, then we probably would have a lot of work being done in this community. So I want to thank Daryl and Keaton for giving me the opportunity. I don't do this much. I said I was going to do it one time. Right. And I appreciate you all indulging me, because I'm sick of people, because people in our community, they like drama. But like, how you going to beat up on people that have done nothing but dedicate their own service and personal time to uplifting Black people in Mason Square? And I'm real clear, Black people. Some of these other so-called leaders want to try to help everybody. Now, concentrate on our people first. How about that?
That one more time. Say that one more time. Concentrate on who?
Concentrate on Black people first. Because every time you talk about opening the net, the people you're opening up the net for, listen in and see if they're reciprocating. Look that word up. See if they're doing it.
Right. Can I say, I want to say this too, and I have to throw this in, because I even alluded to this last week. And even in conversations with Denise can tell you this, and even Ray can tell you this. Denise told me on several occasions, instead of people complaining, why don't y'all start the Breakfast Club up like Ray and them? Ray told me, he's told me that, Denise, several times, that if we want to make a change and a difference, and he gave us the blueprint, one day, the whole crew of what we need to do, we did the community. But I just wanted to bring that up because Denise has told me that. How many times? Denise, you told me that on several occasions. Even the last time I seen you, told me that.
Yeah.
About why we're not doing that. So I just wanted to bring that up after all you said, that we can't keep going back and talking about the past. We have to move forward. There's things in the city that needs to happen and need to change. And while we keep bickering with each other and talking about this and that, we're gonna be left out. We're gonna be left out the cold, because how many of us
we're already left out.
That's why I quit the community, Keaton, because at the end of the day, let me tell you what D.Moss did twice. D.Moss, because he saw what was going on in our community, he saw what was happening in our community. He said, I'm calling a community meeting. He was still at the mayor's office. And I said, okay. He showed me his invite list. And again, Daryl's the diplomat. I'm the ignorant one. I saw the list. I'm like, what you inviting them for? Daryl was like, Denise, stop. We got to stop being like that. And we got to just invite everybody, because our community needs us. Right? And I was like, I ain't coming. Isn't that a true story, Daryl? I said, if you invite them, I'm not coming. because they ain't gonna do nothing. And then I'm like, and they ain't coming because they don't do nothing, right? Daryl calls the meeting at the family center. It was me, Daryl, and Keyshawn, right? Was it Keyshawn?
Dave Maynard.
Dave Maynard. Okay. So then, okay, whatever. Fast forward. Daryl has another meeting. This time, folks showed up. Some folks showed up. But those that talked the loudest, they didn't show up. And so one of the things that I'm very clear, and again, it's about DNA, because if your father did it, sometime you're going to do it. There's certain people in our community that are always going to be on the other side, that will never come in a group of everybody, because they're not wired like that, and they really don't care. So if we all had a party for popcorn, right, and the whole community had a party for popcorn, right, certain individuals are going to have their own party for popcorn next week, even though we already have one for the whole community, right?
Yeah.
So, and even though they believe in popcorn, because you called the meeting, they're not coming.
Right.
They wanted the meeting. But then those same people, when they call meetings, nobody comes. And if they do come, they don't get nothing done because they don't know how to organize and they don't know what they're doing. So, I mean, you can't be a leader if you can only get 5 knuckleheads in the room. And then you're going to get mad because somebody else can call a meeting and get 55 people in the room. You got to respect their hustle, because something they have that you don't. And that's probably respect and accountability.
Did you forgot to say work ethic?
Oh, I'm sorry. But I mean, nowadays you don't need one, so I forget. What is work? Aren't you supposed to just sit on Facebook and make comments? And my favorite, why don't you just write all your opinions in the newspaper? Isn't that work? Even though nobody ever sees you in the community, you don't do anything, no sweat equity, knocking on doors, talking to people. Nobody knows who you are if you walk in a room. So how is that leadership? You know? Right. And so when Keaton talked about our show, there was our show. When we went on the radio those 2 times.
Yeah. I
remember my father, we bumped heads because contrary to what most folks think, you don't have nothing else better to say. You're talking, oh, she just got this because of her father. Because, for the 34 years I've been working, I strap my father on my back and I bring him to work with me every day because I don't know how to do nothing on my own. But what was funny to me is that, so now I'm laughing because I forgot what I was saying because I'm old. Damn, Daryl, it was good too.
You were talking about how people think you got your job and everything that you've accomplished because of your father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because my father got me my very first job, and it was like, you done got jobs for everybody else's kid. Why the hell wouldn't he get one for his own? That's just stupid. For all the people that he gets jobs for, like, he can get you a job, but he can't make you keep it. And I can think about certain individuals that my father's gotten 3, 4 jobs for. And when he didn't get them their 4th or 5th job, they got mad at him. Like, oh, you won't give. I'm like, he done got you all your jobs. At some point, you got to get one for yourself. And my favorite was, he got this one girl a job working for the congressman. He was up for re-election. He goes to her father's business, because he's campaigning. All these years later, he still was campaigning. And the father was like, so what have you done in our community? And my father's thinking he's joking, right? And you don't see what I've done? Like, you've been here for years. He's like, well, I got your daughter a job. The father didn't even know. I find out I'm the one that recommended the girl. She going around telling everybody that she was just walking somewhere and the congressman was like, I want you to work for me. What the hell? So never even gave my father the credit of giving her that job. And I didn't even know it till years later. And that hurt my feelings because she was a friend of mine. I set her up. And there's a lot of people who Ray Jordan has gotten jobs and they try to act like they don't remember. And then they have the nerve to turn around and talk shit about him. And you couldn't feed your family, retire, or eat had it not been for Ray Jordan. So how about thank you? That's what you need to say. So it's a thankless job. So anybody that really works, and I'm waiting to see it, that enters public office, God bless you. But now is the best time to run for offices right now.
Right now.
The expectations are low. You don't have to do much. You don't even have to do anything based on some of the people that keep getting reelected. You ain't got to do nothing. And everybody asks me, why don't I want to run for what? Why would I want to run for office? For what? I mean, we've been doing this work without a elected title, right there. We were doing it before.
Yeah.
We're doing it after. That's number one. Number two, I mean, even like trying to stop somebody from being elected. Why would I want to stop anybody from being elected? I mean, whether you're elected or not, I don't need you. So why would I need to run for a position when I have the ability to do what they can do and more without a title?
Without a title.
I don't.
And that's the part that people don't get.
Yeah. What am I calling in for? You
so
know?
let me ask you this. This is a Disney look. I'm gonna change the direction for a second. Did you feel better now? You sound like you feel relieved right now. You feel like you just exhaled.
I got it out.
So now she ain't quitting the community now.
Now the divorce papers are in. I proved them for her.
Unless I see people working, unless I see people hanging up their petty. Oh, here's my favorite. If I see people that are willing to hang up their insecurities, we might go far. If you're able to lead, we don't need 100 leaders. A good leader knows how to follow. That's why you see me and Daryl at people's events, picking up chairs, picking up trash, cleaning up after, jumping in and helping. It's not even our event, because that's what leaders do. When you want to support someone else's cause, and you don't just show up because it's your event. Let's talk about that. You don't go to nobody else's event and then talk about how ain't nobody show up, and you don't even go to nobody's stuff but your own. That's called a hypocrite.
Say that.
Right? That's a hypocrite.
So with this being an election year, let me just throw this out there. With this, it is a local election, school committee, city council.
Yeah.
If you have young people who want to get involved in the process, what would you tell them that they need to do? Let's take all the other people out the picture for a second. If they came to you for advice and they said, I want to run for office, I want to be effective.
Daryl, wait, they can't come to me for advice.
Say it again?
They can't come to me for advice because I'm not supposed to help young Black people run for office, remember? Especially if they're going to run against incumbents. Didn't we get in trouble for that already?
If they run against Black incumbents.
Right.
Yeah, that was the allegation.
We got called out for helping people want to learn how to run for office.
Yeah, that left me perplexed. I was like, I'm so confused. I thought the goal was to grab young people, put them under your arm, and walk them through the process and help them get to where they wanted to go. I didn't know it was a bad thing.
Well, that was one time I took the hit. I'm like, what? That's what I do? I'll take that one.
Wow.
So if a young person, somebody comes to you and they say, I want to run. I've always wanted to get involved. There are a couple of fears. Number one, when you run for office, you become a target.
Yeah.
People will criticize everything about you, from your hair all the way down to the shoes that you wear. They're going to look at you. I don't know you, where you been, while they support somebody who's been there and ain't never done anything. So someone comes to you and they say, I want to get involved in this process, but I want to do it right. What should I do? What? Give me 5 really good things between the two of you that you would tell somebody about what they actually should do if they run for office. Should they win?
Should they win?
Yeah.
That's running for office. Wait, running for office, Daryl, or if they win?
They're running for office and they're saying, I want to be a good elected official. If I win, I need to know what I should be doing. What questions should I be asking? What's my process? How do I navigate this thing? What are you going to tell them? How do you respond?
Well, first of all, they need to know their community, who their community is, what the challenges in the community. And, sit down with people like Denise and yourself, Daryl, who knows the political game and what they're up against. A lot of times you can't just run. I mean, a lot of them don't even come down and ask you guys for advice.
Oh, yes, you can.
And that's why people will come to you, because there have been people who have run. Here's the deal. And I still hope you guys answer the question. I just got to chime in with this. I think if you're going to run for office, if you have to introduce yourself to people and they have no idea, no one knows who you are, and you've never done anything, you just want to run for office and you have no body of work, I think that's a red flag. But I'm gonna stop mine right there.
No, because we have people that have been elected that have never done anything.
No, I got you. And when they got in office, they didn't do it. It's like going into a relationship. I meet somebody, their last 3 boyfriends disappeared. One of them they found completely dismembered, but then I'm still going to date her anyways. A red flag is a red flag, whether it's political or personal.
Well, I mean, here it is.
I'm
because
listening.
people do come to me when they want to run for office.
That's why I asked you the question.
And well, the first thing that I always say is, you know what? If your intent is truly to be a public servant, then good for you. You can't be afraid. You got to have thick skin. And the other thing is, I always ask why. Why do you want to run for office? Because sometimes the alternative is you may already be doing that work and don't even know it, right? You could be working harder than half of the elected people of the office you're running for, right? And I say that, and I'm going to use her as an example, right? Tracy Whitfield was grinding in the community way before she became a city councilor.
That's what I was thinking of. Go for it.
Right. And so Tracy would use the kind of avenues that you should call on behalf of people. She knew how to navigate City Hall and get things done and work on behalf of people. So when I look at Tracy as an elected official, she's someone that earned the right to become one because she came with a body of work. She was always volunteering and extremely visible in our community, right? Before she became an elected official. So it was already in her to just take her community service to the next level, right? You don't know, but she's almost like in a category by herself, right? Because then there are other people that run for office and you can tell the difference because you see how they work or really don't work. They posture, right? They want sound bites and press statements in the newspaper. There's no work and there's no follow through, right? Because they're resume building, right? They're just trying to promote themselves, trying to get another job as a springboard, because a lot of times elected officials, when they leave office, they get better jobs sometime. And I remember having a conversation with Representative Swan, and he was telling me, because he was like a long-serving state representative, as was my dad. And Representative Swan said, it's hard for me to keep track in terms of who the state reps are, because nowadays they don't stay long. They serve for 1 term, maybe 2, and then they leave and they go get a job somewhere. So those folks weren't really in it because they're true public servants, right? I know what a public servant is because I lived with one and I saw how that person worked. You put the people before yourself. If you're a true public service, it's all about them. It's not just about you. If you're not having meetings in your community, asking your constituents what they want, then you're doing the work of yourself. And we saw that a lot, Daryl, when, the controversial issue about a police board and a civilian review board. And at the end of the day, it was funny because the main members of the council always screaming about it, never came to one meeting, didn't even know what they did. And then when we had a meeting and they scheduled meetings for the council to finally talk to the members to find out what they do, half of them didn't even show up. And it was a public meeting. And when we did have the meetings in all the neighborhood councils and then 4 in City Hall, nobody showed up. The only people that showed up were the same people that had been complaining about it. And a couple of them only complained because they wanted to be appointed to that board. And because they couldn't get appointed, they were naysayers. And then the other group that was complaining about this police board, the majority of the folks weren't even from Springfield, so we weren't listening. So one of the things that we know, because again, Keaton, you were there, Daryl, you were there, when the residents of Springfield have an issue that is near and dear to them, they will show up.
Yeah.
The fact that we had meetings every year about that police board and no residents really showed up. There was one meeting they had 8 people on the agenda, the city council, right? And I knew all of them except 2. And I went over and I asked them a question. I talked to every last one of them after the meeting because I said, maybe I'm not getting something. Explain it to me. I found out they were all ringers for their city council friends that asked them to come and gave them questions. And I asked them, have you ever filed a complaint? No. Well, then how do you know it don't work? And they started laughing. And then I said, you're here because one of them told you to come. And they started laughing. It was a setup.
Can I give you an example closer to home?
Yep.
Remember when we started the Mason Square Initiative?
Who?
The Mason Square Initiative?
Who started that?
And we tried to, I mean, as we talk about, again, when we talk about leadership, it's not even always just the elected. We went to a number of people who said, although they spoke on police community relations, I don't have time for meetings. I don't go to meetings.
The main one always criticized him, and he's never been to a meeting once.
Right.
Too important.
Mason Square Initiative evolved into the Mason
C3. Yeah.
And people still criticize that. And I watched, at that time, you and I stepped back. Tracy and Richard Johnson took it over. Sometimes we would go, there'd be 75, 80 people.
Wait a minute.
In those meetings. Go ahead.
Back it up a little bit.
Okay, I missed some.
Here's the truth. Let's talk a fact real quick. Slip a fact in. Tracy and Richard did not become leaders of the C3 because they're like, we want to be leaders of the C3.
Right.
Be clear. Denise and Daryl started C3 in Mason Square. We had a conversation and we set it up that we wanted it to be community led. And no shade, but facts, we allowed other people to become leaders. You didn't just get to be one because that's what you wanted to do. So people forget how people get to certain places. But at the end of the day, there would be no Mason Square C3 if it wasn't for Denise and Daryl, because they also tried to dismantle it. Am I right?
Yeah.
And we said no.
And people didn't want. They didn't want it. They didn't believe it would work up on the hill. They said it would never work, and it would be a waste of time and resources. Yep. And we made it. We created the Mason Square Initiative. We worked hard. And you know what? And my point was, the community came through.
That's right, big time.
And that's it. The community stepped up, and the community was there. This is when Tracy was just a resident in the neighborhood. Rich was at
She was at MLK Center.
She was at MLK. Rich was at the Deb Hunt Center. There were a number of people. The community stepped up.
But even before that, I remember when you called me. Remember, because I was working with Ron over there. I remember when you first said you were starting that. Would it be a good idea? And remember, when you first started, you had meetings at MLK, and then you moved to AIC, and it was growing and growing. And I seen the frustration. I remember from the beginning. I remember.
And all those people came because we invited them.
Right.
And we went out, and remember, Keaton, when we went out and we knocked on doors?
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Saturday mornings, that's work, right?
Yeah.
And nobody got paid to do that on a Saturday. And so I remember that I would take pictures of meetings there. Remember that? I would take pictures.
Oh, yeah, I remember. You would always take a picture.
You had a radio personality always blasting. Why would you criticize a community meeting in your own neighborhood?
Right.
And he was complaining because we were having meetings at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, right? And you're not even having it at times where people going to be there. Well, how would you know? Because you never came. And at times we would have 40 people sitting around that table. Yeah. And I took pictures because if I ever was, going to be in a predicament to have to blow somebody up again for not knowing what they're doing or just lying, right? I was going to have it on, on my camera. But it was so funny because we also had the regular beat sector meetings. Those were at night. So neighbors had options. And most people did not attend. And we actually had more people that came in the afternoon. I mean, in the 11 o'clock meeting. And what Daryl and I would do is we didn't interject ourselves. We were there, even though we were there as people from the mayor's office. I always sat in the back with my phone or iPad. And people would say, I got a bunch of trash in front of my house on so-and-so, Eastern Avenue. And I would just sit back and I would be texting code enforcement, somebody. And then when they would come back the following me and they were like, yo, by the time I got home, that trash was gone. Because me and Daryl would be texting the different people getting the work done. So if you have the ability to make phone calls and make things happen to improve your community, then you should do it. Every single person on the city council, they can do that. They didn't have to call me and Daryl. And if they don't do it and they try to act like they can't, well, they can do it when they're calling for their family members. Oops.
Mm.
And you know what, Denise? The other thing we talk about leadership. Leadership is the ability. The leadership is the ability to step back, even when you help to get something started and help create and get it rolling. When you can step back and leave it in the hands of the community and say, "Take this and do what you need to do."
That's
And
called security, Daryl.
yeah, but I mean, as we talk about people wanting to become leaders, it's kind of like knowing when to step back and knowing when to trust the community to do what it has to do. Leadership isn't holding on to something for 40, 50, 60 years.
Oh, but
I'm just
also
saying.
it's the ability to follow. Like if Keaton
Right.
had a program and Keaton was like, I got this program, Denise, and the crew was doing this, I'll show up. I'm not in charge. I'm not speaking. He asked me to do something, I'm going to do it. Why do you think you too good to work, to do some, to not be on the program? Why do you always got to be on the program? You talk and blow your smoke and then you go home. Well, how is that making you a leader? You didn't do nothing. You didn't do anything. And so, for me, I just want our people to do better. Stop sitting around barbershops and beauty shops, listening to the people on the radio, bash other people in our community. And then it kills me how you sitting in the barbershop criticizing this person and that person. And other than you sitting in that barbershop, what are you doing? Okay, you might do a couple of projects, but why are you bashing other people that are trying to do something? Why do you get a kick out of reading the paper where all they're doing is bashing other Black people and then promoting people that ain't really doing shit? Yeah. Like, I don't understand why we do that in our community. We so quick to bash this person, but if you really like this person, you're not going to talk about the fact that under this person's leadership, our community suffered. And that's a fact. But you want to keep calling Ray Jordan's name 26, almost 30 years later, and he's trying to mind his business and retire, and you still calling him? Well, if he ain't shit, why are you calling him? Lose his number. How about that? That's why we like you got right now.
Denise gonna kill me for this.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Can I make it?
Don't do it, Keaton.
No, I'm gonna make a testimony to what she's saying, because she's absolutely right in far as other people getting credit and doing the work. So everybody know I'm a member of the crew. So we do a lot. We do work with Denise for the Housing Authority, and Denise we adopted a couple of their housing projects on our own. Denise backed it. She didn't say no. She said, come in here and do the work. And when we do stuff, she sits back. She gets in. She don't even want to get in the photo ops. I'm just saying that, but she has to because she's the director of the program. But there was one facility, they found out we were going downtown. This is true. I'm going to say it. We found out we was going downtown, and they wanted to get involved. I don't know what it was for, photo op or anything like this. And Denise was like, nope. If the crew ain't involved in it and taking charge of it, we not doing it. So I just want to say it is true about the community doing stuff and not other people getting involved and taking all the credit for it when it really was their program and their project. So I want to thank you for that. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Denise. So it actually was successful, and people still tried to get involved in it, and it still didn't work because and that's what leadership is too. Because I think a lot of people, other organizations created, and we've been doing this all summer and stuff. And then they get on board of it, like they're doing this, and people see that they're the ones that are doing it, and they're not really the originators of the event. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I mean, you can never have too many volunteers if you're doing things for the community. I mean, that's a good thing. It would be really nice if there were so many people volunteering and doing things for our community that we didn't know what to do with them, but it's just like, everybody's talking about how we have to, merge our communities together, and I gotta say, we have so many young emerging leaders, and I talk about Peyton Shubrick with the 6 bricks. It's like, here this young sister is, with her family trying to keep her business in the city of Springfield. She's born and raised, and then she ran into a roadblock when she tried to move her business to the Republican. And it was kind of strange because all of a sudden the Republican is now the North End, and none of us ever knew that. And even people from the North End was like, since when? But okay. And, she came to me because of where the housing authority is. We abut that property. It's in our business district.
Mm-hmm.
And asked if I would, write a letter of support. And if we thought that her business was going to be an impediment to our business, because she was asked to do this. And I'm like, the ask seems so strange to me. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. She's like, I know, but this is what they want me to do. And so I asked the questions that, did you meet with the leadership? I'm trying, folks won't return my calls, blah, 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 blah. So she's so smart. She goes, well, I know that there's going to be an event and their community is going to be there. So I'm going to just show up and just like cold ask people. And she was finally told that, the residents don't want it. We can't support it. Not even being a resident, I knew that was some BS. I'm like, why would they even know this is going on? And this ain't even nowhere near anybody that lived. It was crazy to me. And I'm like, why are they blocking this girl? Because all of the reasons were just stupid. They didn't even make sense. There's no people even over there, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know what this is about. I ain't slow. So I wrote the letter, right? They're having the hearing. I'm outing you. Daryl and I were both watching it at the same time. I'm outing you, D. And we're listening and we are cracking up because she's answering the questions. She's stinging them because they didn't have no base to even question her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I know, here comes a city councilor just out the blue coming for me. Well, why she write you a letter and ain't she federal? And well, she's, she talking about, supporting the cannabis business and, their people can't even smoke. Like, and I'm saying to myself, why are you coming for me? Because I've really never done anything to you. And every time I see you, we talk, you're in my face, even though I know you're always talking shit about me, but that's okay. Right. And then I hear somebody telling me, and then, so anyway, when the meeting was over, you know me, I called him right up. Why are you trying to come for me? No, I didn't say that. And I'm like, we just heard you. Check the tape. Check the tape. I didn't say that. And well, why are you coming for me? This is the counselor that said it. I'm like, no. That counselor brought up another organization. You called my organization because you was trying to be cute, because half of them don't like me because they've gotten checked too because they lie and misrepresent their work, right? He gonna go back and tell somebody how I called him up and he had to cuss me out. I'm like, with whose mouth? Because that never happened. But at the end of the day, I'm like, why are you lying again? How about you were misrepresenting yourself? You misrepresented our agency. You were just trying to show off in front of your colleagues that you was going to come for me publicly because you didn't think I'd be watching, first of all. You know what I mean? But then I'm like, but why? And that just brings me back to like having a target on your back when people decide to make you a leader, something that you didn't ask for, And so because people, make you a leader, then there's so many other people, not many, because it's a small amount, to be honest with you. It's just enough to annoy you, that do all they can to try to pull you down and to try to disrespect and discredit you. I'm like, it's never going to happen because you don't have any credibility and people don't respect you. Even if they vote for you, they still don't respect you. So, I don't understand why you spend so much time worrying about me. Worry about yourself, because we ain't thinking about you. And Daryl and I used to say that all the time, right? Yeah. That couple just always, Denise and Daryl, they didn't give us this. They blocked this. They blocked that. And they're just straight lying. We blocked them from getting money. And the truth was they didn't apply. So how are we going to block it if you didn't apply? And you didn't apply, but you running around lying. Who does that?
Listen, I'm going to try and spin this back. We have about 6 minutes left. What I am going to say is,
ooh, Key, and I feel so liberated.
She's making me sweat. I'm just like, woof.
To blow people up often.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Denise Jordan.
Call me. They know where to find me.
Moving forward, folks.
Work, Daryl.
Denise is liberated and done quit the community. Come on now, Denise.
I did, but let me say this. It's a sad shame when you got residents tracking me down at my new gig saying I'm sorry, I know you don't work there no more, but, and you got
Wow.
13 people whose job that's supposed to be. I ain't trying to do your job. So why are they calling me? People should know you, and they should know how to find you if you're an elected official and you're visible in your community.
Wow.
And don't get offended because it only applies to certain people. So if you know you're doing your job, you shouldn't be offended. So all the ones that get offended when I start saying the stuff I do, you should, because I'm talking about you.
Okay. We have 5 minutes left now, and we got to bring this to a close. Look, but I am going to let people know that anybody looking at I can't even talk now, stepping into a leadership role, just understand that there's real work that comes along with that. Nothing is free. You may think you're getting a free ride, and you'll find out that you're not. But there's just so
Some
much.
people are, Daryl.
But Denise, I get it. And I think we made that point. We beat it up for about an hour and 15 minutes. If they don't understand now, they never will. But on the positive side, because we still have people out there who have to remain optimistic that there are going to be some people who want to get work done.
Yeah.
So, I like to judge the world the way I judge myself. I get on my own ass when I don't get work done. And I know there's times when I get work done, and there are other people getting it in too. We want to make sure that folks are cognizant of the fact that as we talk about Black people, there are Black people who do get work done.
Absolutely.
So it's not everybody in that boat. And I'm going to say there's just so many issues that still have to be addressed, so many challenges as we talk about equity. And I think right now there are some people who are still stuck on police brutality. It's a real issue, but I think equity is even more important. And people have to, that traditional leadership model is done. We have to adopt a capacity model where we're looking at the positive aspects of our community. We have to find the people who are getting work done, and we have to work with them. Just saying. There's so many different things that we have to do in the city, not just in the city. And again, for folks who are listening, this isn't just a Springfield issue. These are issues that are impacting the Black community across the country. Our businesses are shutting down. We're dealing with housing issues. But we, at the same time, we still have folks who still have resources. We still have expendable income because we're still spending $1.7 trillion collectively across the country. And we have to figure out how to put together an economic agenda. The vast majority of our issues stem from economic development issues, poverty issues, things of that nature. We have work that has to get done. So we have to find people who are aware of the work that has to get done. We have to find people who have vision, plan, know how to communicate, know how to educate their community to move their community forward. Are there people out there who can do that? If you're out there, please step up. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves complaining about the people who sit in seats and don't get work done. If you don't step up to the plate, no one can pass the baton back to you.
Right.
You have to be willing to put yourself in a position to move forward and move our community forward. So with that, closing thoughts, if we can just end it on a positive note, telling people what we need and what we need to do. So, Drew, I'll bring you on, then I'm going to let Denise be that closer.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity, Daryl, and good dialogue with Denise. I'm appalled a little bit, Daryl, because when you introduced Denise, you said Delta, and you didn't mention nothing about Phi Beta Sigma. So that's another story. But anyway, I really enjoyed the dialogue, and I think what we have to do is we really got to come together and, like you said, identify the people that want to do the work and the people that have the best interest for the city. I know Denise joked about quitting the city. I know this is her city. She's not going to quit the city. But at the same token, we have to step up, and we got to stop pointing the finger at everybody else and find out how we can contribute, including myself, to get things that we need done in this city and build our equity up too, like you talked about, Daryl. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity, and it was good dialogue tonight. And so I hope people who listen it don't take it the wrong way and take this as a message as, what are you going to do for your community and how you're going to step up. So I just like to leave it at that.
Thank you, Andrew. And Andrew, just to be fair, I'm not a part of any organization, so I just think Delta because I've worked with Denise like this close. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. So I apologize. All right. Miss Jordan.
No, I want to thank Daryl, you and Keaton for giving me the opportunity to say my piece. And I like when Keaton said, what did you say about like not taking it a certain way? Some of them should take it a certain way because it's intended to do better, be better. I want to give a shout out to the young people that organized the first Black Lives Matter march, where you had about 4,000 people. They didn't ask for permission. They weren't looking for a whole lot of accolades. They didn't put their names and faces on it. They just did it. And, they had a successful march, and we still don't even really know their names. And they didn't care about that because their objective was to have a protest, right? And so I think if we could commit ourselves as a Black community, that when you're writing articles, when you're on your Facebook pages, when you're having your Facebook Live, why don't you dedicate those spaces to uplifting something positive that someone has done that you don't know, someone has done something good that you do know, you heard about something positive in another city or town that you think we should be doing here in Springfield, things that we used to do very well in the city of Springfield, like when Drew talked about the Monday Morning Breakfast Club. So I wonder how hard it would be if folks could go forward saying something positive about something or someone else other than promoting yourself or something you did, and just do that and not bash another Black or brown person. That's going to be a lot of work for certain people. But just think about that, Daryl. If people really did want to stop complaining and bashing other people's work, especially when you're not really doing anything that's contributing anything successfully, that would be really cool, because for some people, they wouldn't have anything else to talk about if they got to talk about positive things. And that's sad. And that's what hurts our community. So I appreciate you all letting me let my hair down. I don't do it often. And although it may come across as defending the work of the Jordans, I don't have to defend what people already know. We got receipts. Thank you.
All right, Miss Jordan. And real quick, I'm just going to go through the comments, because some people left some really good comments. I just want to read some of this real quick, and then we'll call it a night. Jesse Lewis says, so if I miss you, I'm trying to get to the ones that are actually really saying something. So Jesse Lewis says, a leader is not a boss. I think that a leader is a good follower and a humble listener.
That's right.
Took the meat, spit out the bones, as my mom would say. Keep scroll down. People are saying it true, agreeing. Tone Moore says the current leadership has to groom our young leaders to take over. I don't see it enough. I agree with you, Tone, but I think young people also have to step up to the plate and be ready and willing to pick up that bat and take that swing.
And you can't, I'm sorry, but you can't groom someone if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Is that too? Absolutely. Dunbar was poor management, shaking my head. Kevin Dumpson, absolutely the fault of the Dunbar board of directors.
Thank you, Kevin.
He also said boards need to be held accountable. C. Jackson said awesome. And you know what? I want to say shout out to C. Jackson. Yes. I think he's probably been the most consistent person in our community. Male, female, doesn't matter. He's been consistent from age 19 up to now. You can rely on C. Jackson for anything.
C. Jackson,
he's always there.
He'll somebody needs something, he'll give you the shirt off, give you a ride, take you to buy you groceries, anything you need. If you having an event, he'll come by, find the organizer, give them some money to contribute without even being asked. That's what leadership is like.
Image Genesee says, do you decide to run with or without a team of supportive volunteers? Then if so, should you build a team before navigating the process, a team that works side by side with you to build a campaign?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to get your soldiers first.
Right. Tracy Whitfield, as we talked about Mason Square Initiative and C3, she said, yup. Then no one stepped up, so me and Richard volunteered. Yep. Definitely already had a structure when y'all turned it over to community leadership. Greg Ellerby says, how do you feel about Black contractors getting jobs in city contracts? Sorry, Greg, that clearly wasn't the topic, but it's a good question. There are groups that are working to build that relationship, not only with the city, but with also all the major the general contractors out there. I know the city council just met with the association, something that they've been working on since June. So you might want to contact them, Greg, and work with them on that. Tracy Whitfield also presented something to the city council about accountability and bringing on more contractors as well. So there are folks doing it. Anyone have a concern, you can reach out to Dave Maynard from the Association of Black Business and Professionals, or contact City Councilor Tracy Whitfield, because she did present that before the city, and she's definitely going to need support and help with that.
And if I can jump in for just for history, because
Mm-hmm.
you got to know your history. The state office of women in business assistance office used to be called SAMBA for the state.
Yep.
What Massachusetts, specifically Springfield, has always had a problem with trying to get enough Black contractors and Black folks on that state list. So it's like would be a great time to try to see if we can navigate the waters and work collectively. There have been organizations that were funded just to help Black contractors, and they've just never seemed to be successful. So now is the time to revisit and, go to the people like Councilor Whitfield and the association and, see if folks can get what they need, because it's a process, but, there's always been issues, and that's all I'm going to say. And sometimes it's just having the capacity to get into those spaces.
Absolutely. Someone says, hi, Denise, keep up the good fight.
Let's you.
See.
It's work. I'm not fighting.
All right. Hold up, y'all. I'm almost done. I'm just going through. Very consistent. Love C. Jackson. C. Jackson is Shaft and the equal.
That's Uncle C. Jackson.
Kevin Dumpton says C. Jackson is Shaft and the Equalizer all rolled up into one. C. Jackson has his own theme music.
Yes, look, C. Jackson is bad, mother. Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. So there's a few more, but Kev also says the ability to, in terms of leadership, you have to have the ability to articulate one's thoughts, mission, and agenda. It's imperative, and many that desire to lead lack those abilities. Absolutely. So with that being said, I want to thank you both for joining me tonight on One-on-One with D.Moss. Thank you for everybody who joined in. I see the comments, everything kind of lit up. When Denise Jordan walks into a room, Christmas lights come on. So with that being said, thank you, Miss Jordan. I apologize for bringing you out of retirement once again.
I'm going back into retirement, Keaton.
You're not quitting. You're not quitting.
Like, look, now you see me, then you won't.
You're not quitting.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you very much. This is One-on-One with D.Moss. I hope everybody has a beautiful and safe evening. We are out of here.
Stay safe.